right. Hey, Gathering. I hope that you enjoyed David's devotional like I did as I was sitting here going through it, listening to it. And I want to give a little bit of chance for everybody to get on who wants to be on, who wants to make bread together. And again, if you want to do this, we can do this a little bit live because we're going to be taking a little bit of time to do this. And you can get out your 2 cups and 2 tablespoons of flour, your water, which is a cup, and I think it's half a teaspoon of salt right there. So, yeah, just get those supplies together, get that moving on. Say hi as you log on, so I know that you're around. That'd be great. But that's the basic idea, and yeah. So I'm excited for this because as we have this Thursday where Jesus is gathering everybody together, we get to gather together in a way that most of us aren't really used to, in a way that is maybe a little bit different, that can focus on our family unit as we have each other go towards Christ. But also we can take the time to see everybody else. And I know for me, I don't know about for you, but a lot of this keeps drawing attention to me on how important it is for our community. And what is community? What is with people? And it's really checking up on them and hearing from them and connecting in different ways. Hey, Mary Campbell. Hey, Chris. Thanks for saying hi to me. You can say hi as you guys log in. I want to wait for a few more people to get in, I think. But again, if you logging in and you want to do it with me, you can get your flour right now, 2 cups and 2 tablespoons, your cup of water, and your half teaspoon of salt as we do this. And you can kind of get it all laid out here, which I believe we have all of this. Good morning to the Gatherings baking time. I know we should have had like a little thing come across. But I think we're going to get started now. It's been about 2 minutes. Give people a little bit of time to get in here. But we'll kind of go a little bit slowly. So anyway, this is really simple. And we're going to talk about maybe why God made it so simple when he kind of asked for unleavened bread to be the bread of choice. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But first of all, we're going to have some salt here. And the thing with the salt, so there's 2 things. Salt and the water that were going out to me, which was we're supposed to be the salt of the earth, right? We're here to purify it. We're here to even add value because salt's a valued thing. So salt has a lot of symbolism, a lot of meaning behind it. And water, Jesus is compared to water a lot of the time, right? He's the cup of life, right? We drink of him and we never thirst again. And so there's really simple ingredients as we have our own purification, right? We have this idea of our job is to kind of go out and make the world better, in a sense, to be the salt of the world. And Jesus ends up filling us to do that, right? So we're going to add these ingredients together, and we're going to put the salt in first, and then we're going to go ahead, and I like to use a whisk, and mix it up a little bit. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and give you just this view, because I'm going to be looking down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this nice and whisked together. Don't have to be too crazy here, but just enough to make it work. Ideally, you probably have a larger bowl, but a larger bowl wouldn't fit on my camera, but that's all good. All right, then you go ahead, and again, for what we're doing now, we're gonna add the water in a little bit and stir it in. And again, those of you who bake, you can kind of do it your own different way. There's probably, in fact, I know for a fact, there's a little bit better way to mix it in. But what's awesome about this, and the reason why I'm not really doing it, even though I know to do it, is that this is so simple that you don't need technique. You really can just throw all this together. I think the biggest thing is just spreading that salt in the flour beforehand. But that's all you really need to do, right, is to get this nice and mixed up in here. So we're going to get this mixed up so the water gets all the way around like that. So I hope you can do that. Again, you're just going to get your salt and your flour, we'll whisk it together a little bit, and then add your water. And that's how you're going to get this moving, and then you kind of mix it all around. Now, we're going to knead the dough for a little bit, and for that, we're going to go back to me so I can see your lovely, I can see your lovely faces, because I feel like if you can see mine, I can see yours. So we're going to need about 5 minutes of kneading, and I'm not going to need a full 5 minutes. I'm going to knead for a few minutes. But while we're kneading our dough, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the whole idea of unleavened bread. So in 1 Corinthians 5, 6 through 8, Paul writes this. Don't you know that a little hemetz leavens the whole batch of dough? Get rid of the old hemetz so you may be a new batch, just as you are unleavened for the Messiah. Is that unleavened, meaning no yeast, right? No leavening agent, nothing that adds to the dough. Our Passover lamb has been sacrificed. Therefore, let us celebrate the feast, not with old hemetz, right? The hemetz of malice and wickedness. And now that I've got this mixed together a little bit, I'm going to flour my hands a little bit, just to kind of make it a little easier to work with. But not with the flour of old hemetz, right? The hemetz of malice and wickedness, but with unleavened bread, the matzah of sincerity and truth. So I don't know if you've ever made any other type of bread, but usually it's a lot more ingredients than what we just put in. And there's a lot of other steps, and you have to let it rise, and you have to let it set. You have to do all these types of things with it. And it's complicated. And what Paul is kind of saying is that when it comes to who Jesus is and following him, it's not that complicated. It really isn't. In fact, it just takes a few things, right? And so he talks about two additional things you could add, like where people would add yeast or another leavening agent. So like egg can leaven, milk can leaven, butter can leaven, right? He talks about that we in the world a lot of times will add malice and wickedness. And the thing is, just like the ingredients complicate bread, really everything that's away from Christ complicates our life, right? And it just makes things worse. So when we react negatively, when we choose offense, to be offended at things, right? That's this malice, desire to be wicked, like in wickedness itself, right? All these things, he says, these just complicate stuff. Instead, he's like, don't allow those things. He compares it to this bread that we're making. He's like, the simple bread, he's like, don't allow those added things. And what's interesting is a lot of the time, at least for me, I always feel like those are things we're trying to take out. Like we're trying to take out sin from our life. We're trying to take out malice or wickedness. And in Christ, those things are removed in Christ. And so we end up putting all that back, right? In other words, we add in malice. We add in wickedness. We add in anger and overreactions. We add all of that in, just like some people add things into this bread, right? So I've kneaded this for a little bit, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pinch off about 7 equal pieces, and you're going to roll it up like this and kind of set it aside. All right? So leavening ultimately adds air to our food. Adds a gas, basically. It doesn't add nutrition. It doesn't add anything that helps us. Just like sin, malice, wickedness. Doesn't add anything, only complicates it, only really makes it unhealthier for us, right? And I enjoy a good bread. I hope you do too, so I'm not preaching against bread or anything, right? But the point is that when we think of desire to go against what God says and all these things we listed, and sometimes we view it as a really big deal, the thing is we have to remember that it's just things that complicate it that actually don't add value, add nothing to our life. Just like leavening really doesn't add value, evil doesn't really add value. When I say value, it doesn't add any nutritional value, it doesn't make it good for us, right? So now we've got about 7, and I actually, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to concentrate too much while I was talking to you, have a few better examples of the balls here. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to roll these out into about 7-inch squares. So we're going to have a nice floured surface. So I'm going to clean off really quick while we do that. And I have a lovely assistant off camera to help me out a little bit. But we're going to roll these out into 7-inch ovals. And let me look at the comments really quick. Good morning, Becky. Good morning, Diane. Brend Wofford. I'm so happy you're here. But just going to get you a lightly floured surface. And then you take one of these. And we're going to roll it out, like I said, to about 6 or 7 inches. And can you guys see there? Let's go to the full view. There you guys go. Okay, so just going to get this out. And you don't have to do too much to this. Just boom, boom, boom. And then I've got a skillet over here that I've set to medium-high heat, which on mine, I put up to 400 because that's how it works on mine. But if you do your stove, you can just go medium-high or like 6 or something. Or I'm actually probably going to try these out in my fire pit later. But anyway, you can put this on and there we go. Just so you can see it a little bit there, I'll put it like that. So just set it right on there. And you take your next one, and you kind of do the same thing. And you can make these, if you want to make them more circular, if you want a more circular one, that's fine. But ovals, actually, to me, work a little better. So there. So you see, it's really simple. You just roll these out, and you put it. So these are going to be on there for, I'm going to need to add some flour. These are going to be on there for about, okay, we messed that one up. Those are going to be on there for about 2 to 3 minutes a side. Okay, so for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, those are just going to sit there on the skillet. I'm going to turn around at that point. There we go. There we go. Okay, that one's better. And we're going to get our communion bread from that. So there we go. We got another one there. And we're going to do this one. A little bit more time on that. So we'll get a little bit more flour. But let's see here. I hope you guys are up with this useful. After this video, after we go live, I'm going to go ahead and post a short recap for you just so you can see it. That'll be up pretty quickly when we go through. But, yeah. So tonight when we take this, we'll be able to all basically use the same bread together. Right? We'll have the same bread or similar. And again, if you want to find some other type of bread, and if you're like, well, I'm not using unleavened bread, that's fine. David actually said that in his devotional, because what's true is, you know, the symbolism is what we're after. But, you know, I was able to talk about this with my daughter and my son as we were doing this. And it was kind of cool to be able to talk about and say we're going to have the real bread. So as you can see, I'm flipping the bread over now. That one should be there a little longer. But I like to look for like kind of brown or blackened on there. That's when you really know it's kind of there. And when you're done, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to seal it for tonight. So put it in a tight seal or cover in some paper towels, but just kind of get it out of the air as much as you can. I'll probably be putting it into an airtight container. And then you can save it for later tonight. All right? So Baking with God, hosted by Matt, Food for the Body and Soul. Okay, Chris. I love it. So yeah. So as we're waiting for this to go through, again, if you guys caught David devotional, you know a little bit. But if you didn't, tonight at 7 p.m., we're going to be in prayer. And as we do that, part of this is we're going to have communion together. So this is something that you can plan to get your entire family around the table, tune into, and do together as a family and with everybody in our church. And as I was praying through it, it just, in a way, seemed, I don't know, I guess beautiful in a sense. And I say that just because it's cool that all of us doing the same thing together at the same time as this act of community. And sometimes I think in church, it's for me, sometimes we can even lose that sense because, you know, sometimes we're in the dark and, you know, we're all on our own kind of planet a little bit. And lately, as we've been going through all this, sometimes I feel that we're connecting a little bit more than we even did when we could see each other in different ways, obviously. I'm just going to get this set aside for later. But yeah, so let me flip this one so we don't burn here. So, there we go. So this is what I like. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Okay, so this is what I particularly like to see. I'm going to probably hold it up to the camera a little bit. At least some of this browning, that kind of lets you know you're in the right place going through. Again, if you're using a hotter thing than I'm using, like if you're using a stove with medium heat, you might, then you might get more black, which is fine, which is totally fine. Like the bubbles might burst. The heat's going to do a few different things. But again, that's kind of what you're after when it comes to that. So yeah, so I hope that was fun. I hope that as a structure, I know as I've been doing with my family, because we had to do a few practices of this, I was able to talk to my daughter about like, hey, like this is we're the start of the world. Jesus is, water. And then we make, of course, matzah, and we know that Jesus is the bread of life, right? And there's a lot of meditations I've been being able to have with her, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, I think, during communion tonight. I think that's going to be a good time. And again, if you're able to make this bread, a cool element's going to be we're all going to be actually using kind of the same medium, if you can. And again, not everybody can do this, but as you saw, just flour, water, salt. You mix it all together. You throw it on the stove, and you take it off. I was doing it, I think, from scratch. If I wasn't already prepared, it may take 20 minutes total to do the whole thing. But again, it's pretty easy. And let me kind of flip this guy over now a little bit. There we go. See, he's looking good. Just got to get that other side a little bit better, and this guy's probably ready to go. So I'm going to leave you, and then I'm going to go ahead and post. Ooh, I love him. This guy's good. Anyway, I'm going to leave you, and I'm going to go ahead and post the recap for this, and I hope you're praying, and I hope that we can join each other. What? Oh, that's right. I forgot to give my life. Anyway, let me say it again. So anyway, my prayers are with you. I'll see you tonight as we all gather together for communion. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you comment on this thread or the thread I'm going to post right after this, I'll try to get back to you if anything's confusing or anything like that. And I hope you got your juice, hope you got your bread, or whatever you're going to use to celebrate communion with us. So, signing off, and I hope you have a great day.